Hi everyone, today we are going to talk about exponent rules and dividing polynomials. This section is a little long, so we're going to do it in two pieces. So the first thing is the quotient rules for exponents. That means division rules. Here's the very first thing. Now make sure you write down the things that's covered in red. On your notes there's a red line, so fill them in. If m and n are integers and a is a real number, where a does not equal 0, then a to the n power over a to the n power is m minus n. I have a little bit different way of looking at this. If you cannot remember the rules, this is kind of like related to the one-to-one coverage in soccer, in football, in water polo, in hockey, lacrosse, which is big thing. Basketball. What you're going to do is the rule is the top minus the bottom, and the answer will stays on top. Now, sometimes you will get a negative number, but I also want you to think about this. If you look at example number 1, you can see there's t to the 8th over t to the 2nd. Now, who has more t? Well, if you really write it out, you really understand this is t and 8 of them. Now, you don't have to write this out for you so you can understand. So here's the one-to-one coverage comes up. The top one covers the bottom one. The top one covers bottom one. I have t to the 6th power on the top. So you don't really need to memorize the rules if you can just memorize who is bigger, top or bottom, and whoever is left after you do the one-to-one coverage, that's where your answer should be. So hopefully that will make it easier instead of trying to memorize the rule. Example number 2, x to the 9th, x to the 7th. Who is bigger? X to the 9th. So in this case, I have 2 extra on top, x to the 2nd power on top. If you want to think about this, is x to the 2nd power over 1, because everything cancel out, you're left with 1. But really, you can just go right to x to the 2nd. Do I have to show work? On those two problems, no. Now, the next one, you don't have to, but you got to realize this is like the top over the bottom. So the first term is the top, the second term is the bottom. Now, if you look at this, doesn't matter it's a number, doesn't matter is a letter. If the base are the same, that's why they say A and A on top right here. Notice they both have to have the same base. The exponent is doing the one-to-one coverage. Recognize that's a 5 to the 7th power on top. And then if you want to, you can type it in the calculator and get that. But if you say, hey, that's just 5 to the 7th power, I will also give you the answer. Now, granted, if it's multiple choice, you might have to recognize both. So that's the answer. Next one, you guys try it, and the answer for example number 4 is y to the 3rd power. Now, example number 5, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can do it the way that I showed you guys before. Hey, there's a negative exponent on the bottom. I need to move it to the top. It's going to be x to the 6th power. The bottom flips to the top, but x to the 6th power, because it's not a negative exponent, stays on top, times x to the 2nd. Therefore, you know they are side by side. It's 6 of them plus 2 of them, so it's going to be 6 to the 8th. Or another way you can do it is x to the 6th power, following the rule, minus top minus the bottom, a negative 2 is also x to the 8th power. You can do it either way. You guys try 6, 7, 8, and please come back and check your answer. I do expect some work involved, so from now on, so if you just copy the answers, that is not acceptable. You have to write down the steps to explain the answer. So example number 7 is m to the 5th. Example number 8 is k to the 3rd. Make sure you show work. Okay, for example number 9, divide numbers in a scientific notation. What happened is I want you to think about it as 1.08 divided by 2.4. All right, take your calculator and divide that part first. Okay, eventually you can put all this in one step, but I want you to divide into your calculator, and this is 0.45. Then what you're going to do is you are going to take your 10. Now remember, when the base is the same, you subtract the exponent or think about one-to-one coverage. There's 10, there's 9 10, and there's a 4 10. So you should have 10 to the 5th still left on top. So this is going to be times 10 to the 5th for the next one. All right, now take a look. 0.45 is not scientific notation right there. We need to switch it. So that's going to be 4.5. And because it's 4.5, you are moving your decimal places one place to the right because as the number is smaller, that's going to be times 10 to the negative first power. And then you have the other part times 10 to the 5th. And when you put them together, you have a negative 1 plus 5. Remember, if they are on the even keel, it's really just adding the exponents. Okay, so your answer is going to be 4.5 times 10 to the 4th power. And that is your answer. I would like you guys pause and try example 10. Please double check your example number 10's answer. This kind of problem would definitely show up on your test. On to example number 11. Now, this is dividing monomial. Now, dividing monomial is going to be something that is really, really simple. If you can tell the difference between 11 and 13, okay? Now, when you look at number 11, I want you to see there's only just one term. Divide by one term. So it's a monomial divided by a monomial. And when you do dividing by the monomial without any symbols like a plus, minus, connecting all the letters, they are multiplication. And you can always cancel things that's multiplying. So really, you have three little tiny problems. This is your little problem 1. And then all the letters the same. That's your little problem 2. That's your another little problem. And then C doesn't have anything. So therefore, it's just left with C. So if you just take a look, 16 divided by 28, 16 divided by 28, math, fraction, it's going to be 4/7. Now, if you don't have the calculator handy, you can always just say the 16 divided by 28, I divide by 2 on top, that gives me 8. I divide by 2 on bottom, that gives me 14. Because if you divide by 2, it's so much easier. Just cut it in half. Then you can do it again. Divide by 2 for A is going to be 8 divided by 2 is going to give you 4. Divide by 2 again, that's going to give you 7. That's where my 4/7 come from. Then you look at your letter. Well, I would like to make this line a little bit longer. So the line should be longer right here so I can fit all my letters. I have A to the 4th on top, A to the 5th on the bottom. So therefore, I have one extra A on the bottom. That's the one-to-one coverage, A on the bottom. Then I look at B, B to the 7th on top, B to the 2nd on the bottom. So I have extra 5 B's on top, so B to the 5th on top. Then since I don't have any C, C is just right here. So your answer is really, it doesn't look pretty, so 4B to the 5th C over 7A. And there's your answer. Okay? I would like you guys to try number 12. And then when you're done, check back the to see if your answer is when you're done, come back and check your answer to see if it's correct. Come back and check your answer. 12 should be negative 4m. Because negative 32 divided by 8 is 4. M squared, m, one-to-one coverage, 1m left on top, and an n cancel out. Really, technically, that's 1. But anything times 1, that 1 does not exist anymore. It's just whatever it is. So negative 4m times 1 is going to still be negative 4m. Example number 13. Now, example number 13 is actually a binomial divided by a monomial. 2 terms divided by 1 terms. Right here is, if you notice, is 1 term divided by 1 term. Okay? Now, anything that's 1 term on the bottom makes it really easy. So for example 13, you notice 2 terms. I'm going to say to you guys, this is like the breaking your heart problem. So in this case, it's going to be, here's my heart, and you are going to break it right where the sign is. Sorry, that's not. Break it where the sign is. Okay? So what you're going to do is 24 x to the 5th over 6 x to the 2nd, and plus, notice the sign even stayed the same, 18 x to the 3rd over 6x squared. And then just simplify like what you did before in the monomial divided by 1 monomial. That's all. So in this case, what you have is 24 cancel with 6. That gives you 4. And then x to the 5th, x to the 2nd, you have x to the 3rd on top. 5 is bigger than 2. So that's going to be x to the 3rd. So that's 4x to the 3rd. Now, this is really over 1, but we don't have to write it over 1. See, that can be just eliminated. That's extra. Then the next part is going to be 18. Oops. It's going to be 18 cancel out with 6. So that's going to be 3 on top. And then x to the 3rd, x to the 2nd. So therefore, x is left on top. So plus 3x. And that is your answer for example 13. Okay? And then here's example 14. Okay, so I have the answer for number 14. Double check you have the same setup and you reduce it correctly. That concludes the notes for today. Please let me know if you have any question. Thank you so much for watching.